All right, you guys. I want to get into a subject called flow patterning. Now, flow patterning is uh, again a kind of an ancient discipline. I think um, this flow patterning is related to uh, a lot of Eastern concepts of like energy and chi and this feeling of flow and energy in the body. Now, I have not studied those things, but my own access point to this concept was just in a very simple way. And I'd like to just start with that, which is just to close your eyes.
Yeah. Are you gonna? Do you want me to go downstairs?
And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to, again, bring your focus inwards. And this bringing in of inwards, meaning that you are sort of contracting your space. Your space is um, normally the space, the physical space, the external space that we know. But I'd like you to start going inwards. Now, already this was my point of contact. My point of curiosity and contact was that how come that I'm not moving, but something seems to be moving? That I can travel inwards. And I want you to even experiment. There's a very, very interesting part at the very beginning of Alice in Wonderland. She starts falling. She falls and she falls. I want you to fall into yourself. To me, that book starts with a very somatic experience. We experience that when we go to sleep or we go towards the unconscious, it's a kind of falling feeling. And I want you to see if you can imagine that suddenly there's a big hole that opens up as if from the top of your head it became a big well or channel, and that you just felt your awareness falling down your torso, just falling. Falling. No bottom, no edges, just falling. And slowly, I'd like you to just bring one hand, touch one part of your body, slowly again. And this is what we have done before. I want you to just gather your falling energy, and all of a sudden, you have a point of contact. And I want you to draw yourself towards that point of contact, towards your hand. And again, I think this is a very curious thing. How come we can direct our consciousness to a place? How come? Because if I were to say to you, for example, the ceiling, you would have to adjust and suddenly take that in. So you've moved inside. What does that mean that you've moved? How is it possible? What is that you move? Can you press that button there so that that turns off? No, right on the wall. And then I'd like you to feel that the whole surface of your skin is also a point of contact. And I'd like you now to spread your consciousness all over your skin so that you feel that you are spreading out your focus so that it sort of aligns along the surface of your skin. And what the heck is that? I want you to just feel that. I mean, do you see it? How do you see it? Do you see it as if you are in like a little car or a spaceship or something and you see it, or are you in it? Or do you see it separate? Do you see it like something like like an energy or liquid is spreading out? How do you see it? So this is a point of curiosity. I want you to see it's not really connected to your eyes totally, although you may see something. It's not connected to your ears necessarily, although you may hear something. What is that? And as before, I'd like you to add into that just to show yourself it's not connected to any one of these things. You could see it. I'd like you to taste it. I'd like you to put your heart into it. If it was any one of those things, it should either only become that thing or it should disappear if it wasn't there. But you see, it's there. What is that? So this is the subject of internal flow patterning, that thing. And I don't like to use the word energy because it feels like when you do energy, it feels like it's separate from you. And I don't like to use the other terms that have been made for it because I'm not sure whether those things are the same. So I just see it as awareness because I just know that. I just know that I am aware of that motion. And maybe the only thing that I feel I can say about it is that since I'm aware of it, and that seems to be the common thing, maybe it's just awareness. I want you to now disperse that awareness outside of your body, just to show you again that this awareness is very strange. It doesn't even seem to need to be in your body. Again, is this part of you? Is it not part of you? I can never answer these questions. So again, I just see it as awareness because that's the way it manifests in myself. I feel aware of this space around me, and I feel this awareness can direct itself. It can move outwards. And I feel like I travel with it. It's not like a laser gun that I point and I shoot, because that's separate. I feel I go with that motion. Now I'd like you to try something here. I'd like you to now gather that awareness in your stomach. You can put your hands there if you like, or if you don't want to, you don't have to. It's up to you. But I want you to gather, and I'd like you to create what we have talked about is a closed awareness there. I want you to imagine that there is a ball there, or ball-like thing. I want you to gather your energy so that it's in that closed space. So that in your stomach, you feel it's closed like a room. It's shut off from everything else, and you're just looking inside your stomach. Now, simultaneously, above your head, I want you to make an open awareness. So, unlike the ball, I want you to feel that above your head, there is no boundary. Everything just opens up, like the sky, as if your head were just to open up to the sky. And so, this is the question I'd like to pose to you. If you connect those two places, the open part above your head and the closed in your stomach, which direction does your awareness travel? If you merge the two places, do you notice if there's any motion with your awareness? Just a few moments here. I just want you to feel, and we're going to discuss this. Which way? Okay, let's discuss this. Who wants to take a stab at that?
Um, I felt when I created the closed space in my stomach and the opening above my head, I definitely felt the flow was moving from the stomach towards my head. I felt it sort of percolate upwards and gradually smooth everything out and connect up.
I felt that the closed in my stomach was more like an anchor and held me down, while there was like a line going up, so there was like a kind of a tension between them. If I try to bring them together, wasn't sure that I don't know. It definitely, I felt that the energy was stronger than the open space in my head. For some reason, it held me down.
Yeah, I had a similar feeling of the ball was very much like it was moving, it was turning inside, and it was sort of spinning and very anchoring, and it held a lot of my attention, even as I was coming up into the other awareness. And then I became very wide, so I went out this way, very, very wide, and then I felt. I could still feel, if I took my attention there, I could still feel the ball very active. It's almost like my attention, I could move, I could direct my flow because I also had this question at one moment. Well, of course my attention is going up usually because you set it up that way. So I had this kind of thing, would it be different if you had created the open space first and then gone into the ball, you know? So I tried that for myself, but I felt my attention did come to where I directed it basically, but when I let go of trying to move it, it just felt like it went out.
Anybody else? Just curious again to see people's responses.
For me, what happened was when you said to feel both, I just felt like this. Initially, I felt this stillness, like just like open space stillness of feeling both. And then I think I let my attention wander because all of a sudden I noticed it felt like the space that was going up started going down into the closed area. So then that got me all confused. Like I felt like I lost the, because I was like, wait, that should be going up. And then, so it kind of reversed after I got the stillness, the space above the head. I felt like it was coming down into the closed piece.
Nice. Anybody else? Geraldine?
Yeah, I had a bit of the same thought as Sally, that at first I had that feeling going from that ball I had created in my stomach. It was pretty like I didn't want it to be tight, but I think it was a little tight. And so when you said to create that space up and then to open it, there was a beginning of a movement going up, but then it didn't really open. I felt like the movement was kind of going up and down, like I couldn't really release the stomach part, but I did felt quite a lightness up, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes.
It was difficult for me to connect the two, I guess. Always that secondary stuff, I never get there.
All right, you guys. Look, there is no, again, answer, like answer, you know, again, when you're dealing with flow, I feel like all answers are sort of in play. But there are certain ways, again, that you can still navigate the situation. And one of them, and I mentioned this way back near the very beginning of class, is that we talked about how open and closed is for the learning reflexes, that one of the central dialectics, because we are going from conscious to unconscious. But for flow, the central dialectic is flow in, flow out. And we discussed that that flow in, flow out is similar again to these ideas of yin and yang and relaxation and tension and so forth. There is, or contraction or expansion. You know, there, it's not any one of those things, because flow as flow is just this multi-dimensional thing. So some of those concepts are more spatial, some of them are energetic. And but this idea of flow in, flow out encompasses all of those dimensions. And the best way I think you can explain this flow in and flow out is that it is a kind of feeling of a breathing, an inhale or exhale. It has very much the qualities of an inhale and exhale, meaning that the inhale is the active part, the exhale is the inactive part, the passive part. But the I think the defining characteristic is that it involves the whole. See, because you cannot get into a flow space without the whole. So flow in and flow out means that if you're flowing in and flow out spatially, all of space is flowing in and out, as opposed to a local thing. You know, you can have these local kinds of flows that can happen. Those are more spatial, but a spatial flow, like as a flow in, flow out of space, all of space has to be flowing in and out. And it's the same thing if you're working with like resonance states are forms of flow, and you have to be in a whole flow. You have to be in a flow, and by being in a flow, it means you have to encompass all of what you're doing. You can't isolate anymore any particular part of it. All of it has to be flowing. So flow in and flow out has to do with the flow in and flow out of infinities, of all, and not just of parts. And this is why it's the central dialectic for flow. So there's some very interesting aspects of this flow in and out. It's this feeling that the universe breathes, and that you cannot have only one. You can't, just like if you try to inhale, you can't inhale all the time. You have to exhale. If you inhale, if you throw a ball up, it has to come down. If you have a mountain, you have to have a valley. So this is something that we saw, like with Jerry. She found that she got into a neutral place. We would call that she got into a resonant state where momentarily there's sort of this kind of merging where nothing, and then the excess, maybe she started out with a flow out, then there's going to be a spontaneous flowing in. Very often that happens when you hit a resonant state. You'll be doing the opposite. You'll be flowing out, and then all of a sudden you'll feel a rush inwards because you've been just flowing out. It's like the exhale. It's an inevitable thing. The reflex that we work with, the Tack Down, works on that principle, that you increase your energy pitch out like this. You hold it, you commit to it, you wait a little bit, and inevitably you'll find your unconscious wanting to come down. And you just hold that coming down against your coming up. You can use those dynamics to start to, how do you say, to help clarify the whole flow, because you're adding in both sides of the dialectic into the situation. Maybe being clear, this is kind of hard to explain because we're talking about a very defining essential quality, right? It's not something, I can give you metaphors, but it's not one of those metaphors. I think the best metaphor I can give you is inhale and exhale. The inhale is a kind of active, spatially expanding, more energizing phenomena. And the exhale is this more passive, contractive, relaxing quality. Now, so each of you guys had some very interesting examples. For example, with Sally, she just, another thing that will happen when you hook into the flow is that it sort of has a life of its own. And when you hook into it, we will hook into it through these dialectical intermediaries. We will go out and in to sort of get it going. But once it gets going, that flow sort of takes on a life of its own. And this is something that you will know as a sign that you're in that space. You're in a flow space. Because all of a sudden, Jerry also felt the same thing, right? She just suddenly felt like, I'm lost, I'm drifting a little bit, I don't know where I am. And then all of a sudden she remembers, and then whoosh, she has this like flow in suddenly happening. This is how I would describe or interpret what's happening with her. So even though what we're going to find is that we're going to find that flow again will take over, but at the same time, we want to have some sense of guidance of that flow. And I think it's possible to guide. I know it's possible. And I think you can show that you can guide that just by the fact that you guys spread that flow over your skin, put it in your stomach, put it outside yourself, inside yourself. This is a very malleable thing that you have in possession of. Again, I don't know what it is, but I do know one thing. It's like you're breathing. It has its life of its own, but it also seems to obey your volition. It seems to do what you want it to do. And this is a very, very powerful part. I think this defines somatics, because if you get this, let's say, for example, in medicine, all the flows are sort of objective. You don't have any control over them. They just happen to you. You take your blood pressure, you find out what your rate of your heart is, this kind of thing. It all happens to you. But when you actually go from an internal point of view, all of it, you realize you have an incredible degree of control. And also you have this weird thing where it, again, has a life of its own. Does anyone have any questions or observations about that? Because I find it amazing. I still, to this day, I'm always surprised that I can do that. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, there is a wonderment about it, because it doesn't seem to be something I create in my conscious mind. I experience something beyond what I knew was there. if like going about my day to day, it's not something that I had normally be aware of. And to do something like that and to feel the immediacy of it, it's very interesting, because you can't name it and you can't place it and you can't fix it. But yes, that there was a flow, and there was some relationship with myself with it as well that I could move with it. So it's fascinating, but yeah, I don't understand it.
Now, this turns out to be very, very powerful too. I want you to see this as an active force. It's, we're used to lifting our arms and our legs, and we know how to use our body, but we don't, most people at least anyways, I feel, don't understand how much these flow patterns are actually internal actions of the body. I want you to think about it as if you're lifting your hand or moving your torso and whatnot. And if you see it in that way, well, you immediately are asking the question, well, what can I do with this? Now, I'll tell you what we are not going to do with it. And, well, maybe we will. Who knows? Maybe we will do it. But I have seen people treat this thing again. And this is why I'm a little bit loath to do this. I'm not sure about this kind of work. This is my own, because I lack experience in this way, is that for example, you see some guys, they're chi masters or whatever, they'll say something like this, and they'll actually feel like they can direct it like a gun. You know, they'll put their finger out and they'll say, I'm shooting it out there, or something like this. I have some experience of that when I do, like if I'm using my fingers to do pressure points or something like this, I do feel that my touch is there's something there. You know, I feel like I feel this kind of thing. At the same time, though, I don't like to see it as an outside force. I don't see it again as energy. I don't see it as like something that I'm shooting out or something. Again, I feel very much connected anytime I feel that flow. So I like to keep it in terms of awareness. Now, if you guys come up with something that you want to show me or let me know about, you should definitely do that. But I'm just telling you from my experience, I understand this very much in terms of the movement of my awareness, and that's as far as I've been able to understand it. But I have been able to use this quite vigorously in terms of improving functionality for myself and for people that I work with. And I'd like to show you those things very much. I can show you that very, very clearly. You guys have already done a little bit of this already. So for example, yesterday, or last class, when Gretchen, for example, was working with her axis. To me, this is a kind of application of that situation in which the axis that she's dealing with doesn't exist. It's not an anatomical structure. It's a feeling of flow that she's extending out that. And she's just extending her awareness. As far as I know, it's not the line that counts, but the fact that your awareness is moving along the line that allows the engagement to happen. So I'd like you guys just to repeat that activity for a second for yourself. I'd like you to remind you, this is a very interesting thing. I want to introduce these two terms, internal flow pattern versus external flow pattern. Now, the external flow patterns are the things that you will see outside. For example, the movement of the muscles would be an external flow pattern. The movements of dancers would be an external flow pattern. The movement of trees, the movement of the stars in the sky. These are all external manifestations of flow. They exist. You can see them. I'm doing a lot of woodworking, and it's very interesting to see the patterns that are left on the floor after I work with the wood. They get blown in certain ways, and there's a pattern, and you can see the flow pattern. Those are external flow patterns. Internal flow patterns are those flow patterns that are created by this movement of inner awareness. There is, it's unclear how those two relate. And, but I would like to show you how they can relate in certain ways that I've seen. And the first way I'd like you to do is to redo the thing that Gretchen did on Saturday. So what I'd like you to do is, again, lengthen a part of your body. It doesn't matter what part of your body you try to lengthen. You could try the spine, or her whole torso is what Gretchen did, but you could do any kind of thing. You could stretch out your leg or something. You're going to do the external flow first, which is simply to tighten the muscles. You see, this is just a contractive thing. You're moving mass, and the mass is moving. It's like lava. It's all engaged, and I want you to do that engagement. In Gretchen's case, she was doing that, but that movement of her body was uncomfortable, was frustrating. It did not lead to any sense of balance. But what we're adding on top of that now is the inner flow. And so you are going to allow your unconscious to deal with this. And as you are contracting your muscles, you're going to imagine a line. That's just for your conscious mind to have a little bit of a bearing here. But you're going to create a feeling of length along that central line as you contract your muscles. And this is going to be very similar to this idea of opening on the top of your head and closing your stomach. You're going to see if that lengthening can shunt your energy so that the energy of your muscles now follows the line of awareness, the flow pattern that you create inside along the center of it. The key here is that you have to create motion with that axis. You cannot just have a bar there, you just hold a bar there. You have to actually feel a lengthening, an elongation of that space, the axis, as you engage. What you're looking for here is, again, movement, not only of the axis that you created, but weirdly enough, a sense that that lengthening is going to actually move the energy of your muscles. How is that possible? And this is a very strange thing, you guys. I'm a scientific type, right? Sometimes, and you know, when I did my research on muscles, I found out muscles can't lengthen. They don't lengthen. There's no mechanism for them to lengthen. They can only ratchet in. They can contract or they can relax. They can't lengthen. And yet here, I want you to see if you can feel this lengthening of your muscle along that line of tension. Who's feeling that? Grecia, Barbell, Montserrat. Key here is that you do not force this. You can never force flow, and you have to allow your unconscious, your body mind, to lengthen that axis. You don't try to move the muscle. You simply lengthen your awareness just like you were doing, just like when I was asking you to direct to your skin, just as I asked you to direct to the sky. You just direct along the axis and you engage and you let them merge as they want to merge. Imagine it's like a little party or something. Don't force it. Just let it come to you. See how they mix. You don't talk about it. You don't think about it. You just be patient. Something will happen. Or maybe not. We see. For those of you, well, let's everyone just try the same thing in any direction you want. Let's say you are now going to widen your shoulders. I want you to imagine that you're widening your shoulders, but right through the center of your shoulder, I want you to imagine there's a line. So as your muscles increase their pitch, you're going to engage. You have to engage your muscles. That's your external flow. But internally, you're going to increase the width of that axis. It's like a line that passes through. And just like you are falling inside your body, I want you to feel like you're falling out the endpoints of that line so that it extends. You have to bring yourself into it. You cannot look at it from a distance. You can't just say, here's a line, and as if you're on a chalkboard and you say the line is increasing. You have to feel like you're falling, opening up with that line. And you have to just simply observe how your muscular tension responds to that opening. So one side of you is moving from an internal point of view, internal flow. The muscles are just engaged and it's doing its own thing. But see if you can see if there can be a connection between the two. And the biggest difficulty between of this thing is to keep your mind split a little bit like that, to have one part of your mind be in your unconscious, to let your body respond. You have to see yourself almost like a game. Is you have to let it respond as if it's another person altogether. And your conscious mind can do what it's like, but it can only focus on keeping the muscles, and but everything else it just can observe. It's not allowed to pull out along the axis. That's for your body mind to do. This is the unconscious learning how to separate the two is always the key to doing these exercises so that there is no struggle. One thing that may help is if you look at Barbell's screen, she has a nice picture there. And it's exactly what the feeling is like. You see this column in the very center, just spreading out. And all around it, a texture. This is exactly perfect. Is that yours, Barbell? Is that your picture? Ah, very nice. Very nice. Okay, you guys, who has any observations about this?
I am just wondering if what you call the lengthening of the muscle, for me, it was not really length. I mean, it didn't felt like necessarily length, but it did felt more like if I could feel my muscle breathe, a bit of a bit of that movement, right? But not necessarily in the long. Okay. Okay. So okay. Cool.
Who else?
Me, it was the same like Geraldine. It wasn't really got longer, but it was like a little bit like my picture. It was like something was driving around my spine. Something light was going around my spine and up and down. And this gives a feeling of being longer and longer.
I
Anybody?
experience the axis lengthening, but also I'm struggling with both sides of my body, especially the left side. And I felt clearer there, kind of strings, kind of still strings separating, you know, kind of like a bit guitar. I felt kind of that sensation in both sides. So I also found a blocked over there. Meanwhile, I was focusing on that lengthening of the axis, and my mind got a little bit into it. But still, I did find the lengthening on the axis.
Yeah, for me it was also, I could find the lengthening, especially at the beginning in my shoulders. I was trying in my shoulders. And later on, I just have one question. Like, could you explain a little bit more? What do you mean by engaging? Because I find it, you said at one point, like, don't like clench your muscles, or don't like pull with your muscles. Don't try to do this action with the muscles. But at the same time, there has to be something, right? Like, let's say physical. So I'm just a little bit confused about that. If you could explain.
Yes, I think that was just probably a misunderstanding. I actually don't, it doesn't matter how you engage your muscles, because your flow will take care of how to organize it. So you can clench away, use use as much energy as you want. There's some differences with internal, external flow that's relevant to what Montserrat said, and what Gretchen is saying is that you have to kind of know their different characteristics. So in external flow, you're dealing usually with a much heavier type of flow, right? If you're moving your muscles, you make the effort, you feel, you know, there's something to move, and you actually have to kind of struggle against it. And so sometimes it's a question of, well, you know, how much should I do because it sort of ruins my flow? Or in the case with Montserrat, like, there is some parts of it that sort of interfere. So as you're doing this work, you feel like there's these little threads that are keeping you from going to that full on length, and you feel like those are constantly. And this is part of the reason why we do flow patterning, because we'll break that apart. Now I'll show you how a possible solution to Montserrat's difficulty there. But the other thing is that the internal flow is very, very malleable. You guys, like I said, you brought it to your stomach, you brought it all over your skin, you brought it out the door, you brought it in the door, you put it upstairs, downstairs, you can put it anywhere you want, right? And so that flow is very liquid. And I think that just putting an axis there, you get the kind of effects that Barbel was saying, which is just like this kind of stuff. Just having an axis immediately starts to set this flow kind of organizing, and it's a self-organizing type flow. That's what this is why I think the spiral is so important, because if you are working in body mind, in particular with these very, very subtle flows, the type of way it does, it's not like the muscles where you gather and you clench, and you can't clench flow. It's not possible. But what will happen is that there'll be many manifestations of the flow where it has this kind of very quick and light and breezy form, like this circling and thing. And we are actually going to use those flows, those spiral forms, to help, again, us to understand the language of that flow, so that we don't confuse it from a clenching or this, which we normally do when we do the muscular flow or anything externalized, you see. It's going to be much more self-organizing. You gotta be very light about it, and you got to know how to handle it so that you don't interfere with its natural sort of speed and lightness. And this is going to be a really big part. But does anyone have a thing? Because I'd like to address again Montserrat's thing, because she had a difficulty, and you're supposed to feel that. It's wonderful that you feel that, because then you will start to see you'll be able to test again a little bit the interaction that you have between that flow, and learn how to, again, come into harmony with it. This is the main point. We want it to actually be as smooth as possible, but there's an art to making that happen. So I will show you one part of this art, and maybe this will help, maybe it won't. We'll just try. We're just going to keep adding in different things. The first thing is I'm going to add in Gretchen's thing, which is what we established with her is that you've got to engage hard, engage. You've got to give your flow something to work with, because otherwise your flow will just go off on its own. You just be out in la la land, and it's like it's kind of okay, but that's good for its own sake. But again, you don't have that balance between the external and internal flow. So that's one thing, is make sure you engage your muscles. And engaging means just everything. Like your muscles should get hard. Like you should feel like, just feel your muscles. You should feel like you're putting the energy into it. So you want that. That's one thing, so that you make the difference more clear. Now, the second thing that I'd like Montserrat to do, and this has to do with one possible way. What I'd like you to do is, I don't want you to think of this this line as being like a line, like a set line like this. I don't want you to think of this as a rope. When you are dealing with an axis, you always have to deal with it already being infinitely long. You're not trying to stretch out something that's short. It's something that's already long, and then you are stretching that out. So I want you to try that. When you are working with flows, you cannot work with segments and things. You have to work with infinities. So what I want Montserrat to do, and I'd like you guys to all try this, especially if you had a difficulty, I want you to, again, make sure you increase the pitch of your engagement. Don't do the engagement to, let's say, if 10 was your highest engagement and 0 is your lowest, keep it in a comfortable range, maybe like anything below 6 or 5 or something like this. So this is one thing, or even lower. Sometimes you have to, so I want you to engage, but I don't want you to engage so much that you're just like this and stuck, right? The second thing I want you to do is, again, with the internal flow, work with an infinite axis and stretch that out, and use your unconscious to do that. And let's try it again and see if that helps. And I'm going to add in a few more. If this doesn't work, there's a couple more things we can do. So let's just try one thing at a time, though. Yes? So if you guys found what we did easy, try something harder. Get into like a stressful situation, like maybe you're in a in a push-up position or something, or maybe a stretch in yoga or something like this. Give yourself a little difficulty so then you can work through what it is. This is an excellent thing for yoga, by the way. This is again, this is just very basic, but even this can get you to really, really take off. So go ahead and try. If you find something, just if you are doing a yoga pose, don't do one that is hard to hold. You know what I mean? Like, don't do like a back bend or something like that, like a bridge. That would probably be really hard to hold. So and Tanya, even if you're doing this, you might want to do it on your knees. So it's not so much so the push-up is good, but to hold it, again, it can be quite strenuous. So try it on your knees. You can still get the same effect. Yeah, Geraldine, that's a good one. Just your arms above your head. That's a good. Very nice. All right, give it a go, you guys. Engage your muscles first. Engage means just what it means. It means that the muscles actually tighten up, just like a bodybuilder or whatever it is, but not till 10 like they do, maybe up to 4, 5, 3, something around there. Something comfortable, but you're definitely feeling your muscles engage. You are awake. Your body's external flow is working. Now, right off the bat, you are going to imagine your axis to be infinitely long. Do not give it a limit. Right away, you have to go into the logic of the internal world. Internal flow requires infinities. And from that internal infinity, I'd like you to gently feel like your body-mind's going to do this, as if it's like that whole line is expanding all the way out to infinite length from, it's not like two endpoints being pulled apart, just that the whole thing is expanding. If you do this, the release can be quite quick. Just check for that. You know, it's not something you have to work at. It's going to happen, and when it happens, it's just be like whoosh. This is also a thing. If you work external flow against external flow, you will struggle, and struggle is part of working external flow with external flow. If you work with internal flow with internal flow, it will feel like perfectly light, like you're almost like drifting. But if you do external flow with internal flow, you'll just find a sudden whoosh. When you find that whoosh, that's it. It's very light. It'll happen. It's not complicated. And Gretchen was saying that the first time she did it was the good. And you know why? Because you only need to do it once. And once you have that thing, you're there. You don't have to, this isn't something you have to work at. And this is another thing you have to learn. And this is the hardest thing for people to learn when they're working with internal. They think they have to work at it. It's easy. You just feel it, you let it happen, and then whoosh, you're done. You know, you don't have to feel like there's some more to do or something like this. You get your release. You may have to change something, and we'll show you how you can get it. But you only need that one release, and you're done. That's it. You can switch over to another body part, or you can maybe put more energy into your shoulder or whatever it is. But once you find that release, don't try to pull more flow out of that. This is not necessary. All I want you to do is see if you can find that fleeting moment of whoosh. And when you feel that whoosh, don't get greedy. Don't start to like, oh, okay, how much more can I get? You know, this kind of stuff. Once you find that, that's it. Who's got that? Who's felt that? Barbell's got the, is that a yes, maybe, or is that a yes? Okay, it's a very flowing thumbs up. Sometimes, again, the other problem will be that your conscious mind will be disappointed. Conscious mind likes to struggle. So it'll be disappointed. They'll be like, you mean that? And then you'll think, oh God, that's so small. I can't believe it. Like, you say, is that it? Oh, just wait, you guys. It's not that little something is going to build into a tidal wave soon. We'll get there. Who felt that? Who felt that little whoosh? Gretchen found it.
It's like a kind of a sigh or something like that.
Just a little sigh. Yep. But how else would people describe it? People who have found it. And then I do want to know people who haven't got it, because we're going to get there for sure. But who could feel a little whoosh? Yeah.
I think I got it and it widened.
Yes. You know, I think you got it too, because I'm looking at your face. It's totally different. But yes. Yay. Awesome. Who else?
Eugene, do you have another word for whoosh?
Uh, well, Pamela said it's like a little sigh.
I'm just
Uh, what did you have? Did you get something? Tanya, did you get something?
I think I have it, but I'm not sure.
Okay, great. That sounds like you got it. It should feel suitably ambiguous, but if you think you
Okay.
got it, then you got it. I'm almost sure of it. It's
Okay.
going to feel like a little insignificant at first. You're going to think, well, yeah, okay.
Okay.
And then you'll
Or
think,
like a
okay.
little, like a little exhale or a breath, or I don't know.
Yeah, something light.
Yes. Okay. That is fantastic. How about everybody else? Is there anybody who had like difficulty finding something there? I'm going to, yes, I know. I got you. I got you covered. Hold on. I'm gonna... Sally, how about you?
Yeah, I had an interesting one where I felt very split. And I think my conscious mind got a little involved at some point that kept cutting me out. But on my left side, I was doing it through my thigh in a position I find often quite difficult. And I was making sure I was not tensing like overly somewhere in the mid-range. And the left side was able to release almost immediately. And the right side was an absolute no.
Yes. Okay. That's wonderful. Hey, and
I was
this,
like,
that is a wonderful thing. You know, listen, it's true. And this is lovely that you guys, I think there's different types of responses that can happen. So first is the little whoosh, the sigh, whatever you want to call it. The very small thing, which again, we're going to get into a very big thing. I'm going to show you guys that that's little whoosh is not insignificant at all. But there are two other things that can happen. One is did something happen? Like what happened? You know, this kind of thing. That means you're a little bit more on the unconscious side of things, and you're just like your unconscious just takes it away, almost takes it away, and you kind of feel this kind of like, you just kind of like zone out and you don't know what happened. That can happen where your unconscious sort of takes and runs. It says, oh God, yes, thank God. And it sort of just says, this is me now. Okay, see ya, bye. And then the other thing is that your conscious mind starts to grab on and say, what happened? And it's much more like, you know, it's much more like demanding. It says, what happened? I don't know what happened, so it didn't happen till I know what happened. And it might put its foot down and it says, you know what, I'm not going to let this in because I don't know what happened. Or it might actually have an objection. It says, I don't want this to happen. And that can happen too. And it's okay. None of that is necessarily bad, but it's reactions that you should be able to recognize, because what we're looking for is a little whoosh. But there can be some resistances. Again, if you have been the type of person who has been unconsciously starved, like you're like, oh my gosh, my life sucks because it's like, I just want to let go and I never can. So then you get that moment where you let go and you just go, oh, okay, see ya. You just like tune out and you just decide, I'm going to like drift off to, La La Land and see ya, I don't give a crap. And then, but then there's another side that, again, if you're consciously like kind of like, you know, like holding a little bit, you're gonna stop that flow. You're gonna say, well, I didn't understand it, so I can't let it in. Or like I said, sometimes the conscious mind will say, I don't want to let it in, don't trust this yet, or whatever it is. This clip can say, shut down that flow. So those are all things that you're going to find in flow patterning. And again, I don't want you to worry about it, because as you start to become more clear about the experience, everyone will relax a little bit. The unconscious side will relax a little, say, okay, it's okay. I get another chance, so I'm not going to have to take off. And the conscious mind will be a little bit more accepting and say, okay, well, maybe I don't know. It's okay. I'll let it go. So, and Geraldine, what happened with you again, so that we get clear? And again, I'm going to work through some of these objections. I just like you guys to kind of see what kinds of things turn up when we start getting into this stuff. Geraldine, what happened when you did it? You said nothing happened. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's just that I started having shoulder and arms burning, like just like,
Okay.
so after that, like when it starts burning, like
Yeah.
flow goes off, right?
Okay.
Like, but before it started burning, I did find that I couldn't just, and maybe that's why I messed up, because I couldn't just be, my arms were like this,
Yes.
and I felt like I needed 3 axes. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
I know. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
it didn't work. It didn't work.
Okay, well no, but you had the right idea, and this is really good. And maybe this is another thing. So we have 4 different ways so far of possibly resolving. We have the whoosh, that's just like no uncomplicated, it just happens. We have the unconscious mind being like, see you later. And then we have the conscious mind saying, I'm not going to let this happen. And then we have what Geraldine had here, which is from the very beginning. And this is the reason why. And I probably should have warned her about this too, is that she was going into, like, her raising her arms like this for Geraldine is hard. Like this is she it triggers her nerve. She actually has a nervous thing, and she has to work very hard actually to get that to be um, something that she can resolve. And so this just is under the class of things that it's too stressful right now. Like if she's learning something new, you don't want to start with something that's going to cause a problem right off the bat. I mean, just it's supposing, for example, you're learning how to drive, and you know, you got 3 people in the car, and they're all looking at how you're driving, and all of them want to play driver too. It's not going to happen, right? You got to move over there. You got to move over there. You know, you're not doing that right. You know, that kind of stuff. If you have that stuff happening, obviously it's not going to happen, right? This is what happened with Geraldine. It's just that she's in there. Her muscles are saying, what are you doing? You don't do that. This is not going to happen.
But then I find, like, I mean, just the time before, I feel like, okay, I'm engaged, I'm holding myself straight, but
Yes.
yeah, I'm not at like 4 or 5 or anything like this.
Yes.
Right. So that's why I was trying something where I was actually engaging a little more, but I don't know what to engage without burning.
Yeah, but listen, no, there's stuff you can do. Look, just don't choose the things that are going to cause you pain. Avoid things that are going to cause pain. So when you're learning something for the first time, you want to challenge yourself, but challenging through pain is not the way to do it. You want to. This is a general learning thing. Don't purposefully go into pain. It's not anytime you're working with a person and they have pain or something, start working their stuff in all the different ways. No matter how much pain they have, Geraldine, even you, it's like, look, it's not 100% pain everywhere. There's always a place that you can work where there's somewhere there's no pain. You start from there. You start from there rather than think, oh, I should be able to work through this too. Now, eventually, when you guys get good at this, you can go straight to your pain. You will definitely be able to do that. And that is actually when it starts to become very, in a weird sense, motivating, because you actually want to test yourself in this way. And this is a very interesting thing. But in general, starting out is not the best way to do it. And people will do this anyways. It's something that's ingrained in us. We think that if there's no pain, no gain, this kind of thing. And when you're working with flow patterns, you just can't do that. You have to understand pain is not going to help. Okay, so Sally, let's deal with your thing. Yes, Sally's thing was that her right side said no. Is that right? Your left side? It was your right side that said no, right? Left side, whoosh. Right side, nope, you ain't touching that. Right? Block. Okay, so what do you do? What do you do in a situation when you have a situation where your body mind doesn't want to go, your conscious mind doesn't want to go? Well, here's a strategy again. And I'm just going to go through this again. I'm kind of helter-skelter, but I just want you guys to understand there's nothing here that can't be worked out if you know these you know your way around. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do a crescendo with Sally. Actually, we're not even going to do crescendo. We're going to just work with a pulsing. So you're going to start from your threshold of awareness, and you're going to start just, that lengthening you're going to do as a pulse. You're going to kind of like this. So you're going to lengthen, but instead of trying to just lengthen all in a line, you're just going to lengthen as, yeah, that's right. Just at and you don't even have to increase it. You could just start with a little pulsing first to make sure that there is that there is still an agreement. If you start, you can sneak up on this by going on the underside of it. So if you start at full on, there's something to resist, right? Give yourself a pulse and see if you can work your way into it by pulsing. And you have to work at the threshold of awareness. So I'm talking about the least pulse possible, the smallest pulse. So let's just try that. We're going to try to go through Sally's situation. Geraldine, you can do this by putting your arms, but like you had it up here, right? Clearly too hard. Put your arms here or something like you know what I mean? Or rest your elbows on the sofa so that you don't have to lift your arms, but you still engage them. So you have to find a point of contact in which the resistance is not so, and all of this will be common sense. After a while, you'll get it, right? Because it's the same with anything. If you got to bring it down. If it's too hard, then bring it down. So Geraldine, I still want you to feel like you're lifting, but again, put your elbows onto the edge of the sofa or something, or yes, or like that. Anything that does not cause the burning, but you're still doing the same action. And Sally, I want you to start with a little pulsing at first and see if you can, even a pulsing can sometimes do it. Smaller it is, sometimes more effective it is. So you take that infinite axis, but instead of feeling like you have to stretch it to another infinity, you stretch it to an infinitesimal, a little bit, and softly to boot. Tanya is going to suspend judgment. She's going to let it happen, and then she's not going to comment on herself. She's not going to look at it. She's just going to be very, very non-judgmental about the situation. You're just going to see. You can observe what you're doing, but I don't want you to judge it. You can use as much of your conscious mind to observe as you like, but don't say it's too little, or don't say I'm not doing it right, or don't tell me or yourself that it's not enough or anything like this. Just take it as it is. What it is what it is. For other people who have found it easily, you know what? You think that you do it less, you're going to get less, you're going to get more, guys. I want you to open up and see if you can do the smallest amount, but really get involved with that infinity as you do that little bit. The less you can do, the better. As long as you have the infinite sense, little means a lot. If you're doing little, it means you have to get more sensitive. If you have any difficulty, do it even littler. Smaller, smaller, smaller. Softer, softer, softer. So soft that you will feel a chill going through your body if you do it really soft. If you do it soft, your body will get sensitive, and that pulse will even still send a little chill through you, just like a ripple. But you've got to relax, be open. Open to the infinity, and then just the softest, like a butterfly wing, like a baby's finger. Like a snowflake falling on your nose. Whatever you think is, if you're having problems, keep going down in a decrescendo. Make the pulses even less and less and less and less and less. This is always the key here. Towards the threshold of awareness, it's much easier to find an agreement there, even if it's small. And you just need a little shift for the whole thing to change. When you're dealing with body-mind resistance, you can think of it like a big wall, but this wall is very special. It only needs to change. One small part of that wall just needs to change, and even a little bit, and that whole wall changes. The smallest change. Find the power of that smallness. Small is not the right word. Infinitesimal. It's very small. It's very light. And like I said, if you have a block, even focus, just like I said, in a point of that block, just one little point of it. You don't even have to deal with the whole thing. But even if you can change that one point, even just a little bit, just a little whoosh. All right, what are we finding here? Sally, or Geraldine, you do you have any comments? Were you able to find something there?
Yeah, that was really useful. It wasn't even just well, basically I managed to get under the radar is what it felt like. I had to get right inside, enter it really inside, and not just even the length of the pulsing, but it was really the quality of the pulsing that made the difference. Like I couldn't pluck it like an elastic band. It had to be really smooth and light, like a little stroke on the inside, really tiny. And then it kind of stepped down, the muscle kind of stepped down and let go suddenly. And I was able to do that in different places. And then the thigh let the whole thigh went.
Fantastic, fantastic. That level, that degree, again, you hit it right on the head. When you're dealing with flow, it's not like the other, like if I'm engaging my muscle and let's say I want to lift a weight, you've seen it, those guys who do it, you know, they're going like, they're really, really going, right? This one, the whole art of it is in the quality and how, you know, how carefully you can figure out how to get at it. And you're doing exactly right. That's perfect. You see how you're working also very much on at the threshold, right? At your limit of sensitivity, and that's where the power and the strength is, to find the sensitivity at that level, and then also again just to constantly balance, figure it out, like how do I get in contact. This is what I mean. It's not like it's like a laser beam and you point it and you shoot, right? You have to actually get in there with it. You have to really get in there. You have to bring yourself in. Again, that's why I like to look at it as awareness rather than energy, because I think you have to bring yourself into it. But that's awesome. Yay. Who else found? Tanya, you're slightly nodding your head, which is, I hope, a good sign. Do you have anything to say, or is this still a little difficult for you?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm feeling, but there's a lot of things going on, but it's new, so I'm just sort of exploring, really.
Yes. That's wonderful. And I want you to see, you know what? You know how when you said when you sculpt and you plaster, like you like it because it doesn't really, you know, really take form, or you can kind of keep shifting it. This is the way this is going to feel. Like there's not going to be a definitive thing. And your artwork is going to help you a lot if you approach it that way. Don't worry too much. But what you come out with, just look at and observe the activity that's happening there. There's some nice things happening there. Just that activity is already a huge step. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Who else? Monserrat, were you able to handle the thing? If you have not, I wanna deal with this next. I wanna talk about, but were you able to handle that through this way? May not work this way with yours.
It worked for a while,
Mm-hmm.
then and I went somewhere else.
Uh-huh. What do you mean by where you went somewhere else?
Yeah, somehow kind of, I guess I grab a spiral and then I was flowing, and I found these, I found the field, I found a very quiet space, but then all of a sudden and that's why I said it's kind of a spiral. I just had a feeling inside, kind of a energy swirl, and then my mind kind of came again, and then I was focusing on the block again, but it was differently. So I kind of like did it, but no as well.
Okay. No, I understand. And we're gonna address that in a second. We're gonna do that. We're gonna address this one. But anybody else, like anything about okay, let's try Monserrat's thing. Now, Monserrat's thing is a situation in which she does it once, it's working kind of, right? But then something gets caught again, or like somehow it's like all smooth and something, and then something, it starts to go back into that form place where it feels like, but the good thing is that she's back. She's now sensing her original interval differently than she did now. And again, that change is is good. Now, this is the second thing that you have to understand about flow patterning and flow in general, is that it's not like if you take a hammer and you take a nail, you know, a really good person, they'll take the hammer and the nail, and they'll do it like, if you do it clean, it, the hammer and the nail just goes like this, one, like this, just like, you know, it goes right there, right? But with flow, it's usually not that way. Usually the action is more of a repetitive thing. Think ocean, you know. That's what I mean by whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. You don't want to go bang. Sometimes bang is really good, but you don't want to go bang with flow. You want to go whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. So what I want Monserrat to do is that if you find yourself back to some place, but you find that there's a change, I want you to do what we call a progressive reflex. And again, we're going to go into this, but I want to, what she's going to do is she's going to do once she gets the whoosh, she's going to, instead of waiting for herself and then she's going to do it, and then all of a sudden at some point it's like, remember me, and they'll come back, right? They'll be like, here I am, I'm back. But it's a little different. What I want you to do now is I want you to actually go revisit it immediately after you feel that release, so that you don't wait for it to show up. You just say, all right, here it is, my old friend, but you look a little different. Face has changed a little bit. You look a little more relaxed, but you're still that guy, right? So then I want you to do the same thing for starting from there. And then wait for a whoosh. And then instead of waiting for that guy to come back again, you say, ah, I see you again. Again, we meet. But your face will be a little different. You look a little different now. And I want you to keep doing this process. It's called a progressive reflex. And you remember we had talked about with the spiral, the formula, there's a recursive thing. This is what recursive means, that you keep going back to the output and you redo the output over and over again. So a progressive reflex is just mimicking that process where you do it, you come up with a result. Instead of waiting for it to get you again, do it again on it, and then again. And each time, let it keep shifting and shifting and shifting until you come to some kind of resolution. You guys, I'd like you to try that progressive. Even people who have gotten the whoosh, you think you're done, revisit it. Just reestablish what it is. You should see that it's changed somewhat, and then do it again. Revisit it, do it again. Whoosh, just ocean waves. Okay, let's just try this. You'll see, you don't have to do as many as you think. You might think, oh God, do I do 1,000? Do I do 100? No, probably about 5 or 6 times is all you'll need. So Tanya, now you are starting with plaster now. Your whole sensation is like plaster. It's not gonna dry up. It's just gonna keep. You get to do whatever you want with it. So you don't have to be perfect here at all. You don't have to hit it with a hammer. You just have to feel a little whoosh. It could be a small whoosh one time, bigger whoosh the next time. No worries. The key, though, is after that whoosh, you have to re-look as if you're looking at that block again. Your old friend, you look at him, you say, okay, little change here. Your eyebrows are more linear. You find it is a little bit like that. You're going to find a little flattening out happening, a little bit, that delocalization feeling, that little bit spread out, a little bit more open, a little different. take each whoosh with patience and enjoy the process. There's no, it's not like you have to get anywhere. You just observe how things change, and that's it. It's a creative thing. It's like going and doing an artwork and running through it once and then sort of re-looking at it with fresh eyes and trying another thing. You want to just enjoy this process. And don't take it for granted. You know, again, it's an amazing thing. Again, this flow. What the heck is that? How come you're shaping with what is this medium? It's crazy. And just don't keep going. You know, at a certain point, you just relax. You know, if you feel like you've gotten to a place, you don't, again, it doesn't, you got to not push. You have to feel, again, you do it to the point where you like, it's like artwork. There's a place where you can ruin your artwork if you do too much, right? You keep pushing it, you're gonna lose the feeling, and then you're just doing it for the sake of doing it instead of, there's a place where you just stop and then you just relax. It's there. Could happen once, could happen twice, 3 times. Probably not more than 4 or 5 though. 6, 7, maybe like this. Don't push it. Just feel like you get to a place and then just breathe, have fun, relax. It's nice to just let it breathe. That's probably one of the other hard things. It's not intrinsically hard, but when you start doing it, you find things, you say, oh, I just want to keep going. I'll do it. And then you start to push it a little bit. And anytime you push flow, it's not a good idea. Not a good idea.
Okay.
Okay, what's going on? What's going on?
So I was able to feel the flow. It was a lot easier with my hands when you suggested sculpture. And I was actually able to feel the flow. But it was always through my hands. It's a lot harder with my body because I'm already brainwashed with certain conditioning.
But great, fantastic. Yeah, you look very comfortable, and I saw the hands. I saw your fingers kind of, I couldn't see what you're doing because your hands were like here.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just, I was
Nice.
curious though. Yes, nice, very, very nice, very nice. Awesome. Who else? What? Nobody? What?
very different kind to get to flow. I have to think because I know flow, but from a very different direction. It's disturbing.
D- Disturbing. What do you mean?
Disturbing.
it's it's um, it's to come to flow this way is very very new. Flow itself not, but it's this is disturbing. So
Yes. Okay. Okay. Yes.
okay,
Yes. It's definitely a
and
different.
and it's very interesting what Tanya said that she's familiar with flow in her hands from sculpting, and and I'm familiar with flow when I hear something what's true, then I resonate. And it's,
Yes.
it's very special, and it was very very interesting for me.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. 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 We are going to be dealing with flow with its dialectical opposite, with form. We're going to be doing normally flow again. You go into artwork, you dance, you just let it go, and we're going to do, of course, this kind of way too. But sometimes to go into it this way, which is it's almost like, like number, like, it's just like bop, 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 right? And so there can be sometimes this initial feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm trying to get at flow, but I'm doing it in such a calculated way. Is this okay? But you guys, again, our goal here is to accentuate both sides of the thing. So there's flow and form. And this is very much, again, what the spiral form is. It's a flow and a form. And when you are able to have a balance between those two sides, it's very beautiful because you get the strengths of both, and the harmony of both together is also quite different than each alone by itself.
I have a question. I have a question.
Yes, yes.
For me, it's always much easier to do something like this in a group. Why?
Ah, yes. Well, it's the same reason that Tanya is using her hands.
Yeah, that was easy.
Yeah, you can learn from your hands, right? And you can learn flow is this is another thing about flow. It's like, see, I learning, everyone when they go into body mind, they want to do it themselves, but they don't realize it's a little bit of a jail to do that. You don't want to just do it in jail, if you just do it by yourself, it's the advantage is that there's no one disturbs you, and you think, okay, now I get to do it my way. I love to just do it my way, no more distractions for once. My way, I get to do my way. And so again, but you probably haven't been used to being around people where you could discuss it, and then you realize like and do it with other people, and then you realize, no, actually that's better. My way is always good if you've been surrounded and you never can really get to around. Everything's always a distraction. Someone's around you, you're like, oh God, oh my God. Then you're just like, just leave me alone. I just want to do it myself. And you get used to this idea and you think, okay, you know what? It only works when I do it myself. But that's not true. It's this, again, if you are with people who are like-minded and you feel comfortable doing it to them, for sure, it's like using your hands. It's going to be better and it's going to be easier. Everyone has to trust that. I mean, you will see that that's a huge part. People who are hooked into flow and things, they become very jealous of their flow because, again, they find so much interference in regular day life that they just want to protect it. It's like their little garden. They put a big fence around it. And they say, you know what? No one gets in this garden but me, and maybe this person sometimes, and this one maybe sometime. But when you get comfortable with your garden and you know what's going on, you want to open it up to everybody, and it's good. So it's a flow. You cannot separate. Any kind of division is going to give you a problem. So you know, you want to find connections with people, it's going to only help you, but it's got to be the right situation for sure. Like, Barbell, go into your work and try to do this, right? Like say, hey, you know what? Why don't you come over here? It's lunchtime. I want to show you something I learned, right? That's going to probably be a disaster.
I did it today.
Yes. You have to be careful at first because, you know, again, as you get better, you'll get stronger. You'll know how to explain, or you'll be able to get it to that person, maybe to have them understand. But there is going to be an initial resistance often, and if you're not ready, or if you know, it can be harmful for your flow for sure, because the flow you're going to have to take in, and if that person is really aggressive against it, it's going to be very difficult for you to feel comfortable in that situation. So but yes, I want you guys to understand that, because sometimes there's these habits again. You're going to think, oh, it's not good to be around other people. Well, it all depends, you know, it depends. It all depends. You know what's crazy? I think we're almost done. Holy crap. Yeah. All right. Well, there's a few more things I wanted to do, but that's all right.
I was just going to say I need a break, but oh well.
Yeah, we're finished. That's going to be break. So you guys, so you see here, we're dealing with a different thing, and our approach is going to be quite, it's going to be a little bit weird at first, but it's going to be clear. And this is the thing, you know, again, if you, this is what I want you guys to always have, is this clarity. So at the end of the day, if you find, oh, this doesn't agree with me, at least you know what it is, right? And I think it's good to know what it is. I think, though, that if you do it very simply and straightforward, you'll find that doing it this way won't interfere with that other way that you would normally do it either. It's just another approach. It's very clean, though, doing it this way. You can always come back to it. You can discuss it. And then eventually you're going to go on your own. You're going to do your thing. No, we can't keep track of this thing all the way through. Anything else? Was there any other things that people have? I always want to make sure that we get through most of the objections, so that I really want you to see it's really simple. And when you get that going, even for some complex things, it can get very simple, because we have a lot of ground to cover, and we can do it if we understand. There's no struggle.
Eugene?
Yes.
So what do you mean, like, eventually you're going to go on and do your own thing? Like, you can't hold on to it all the way through or something? Can you explain that?
Is that you, Kim?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wow, I didn't recognize your voice. Could you say that again?
I was just wondering if you could explain what you just said about, like, you can't.
About
Kim was just asking.
She sounds like the wind.
Yeah, her mic cut out, but she was just asking if you could explain what you mean by going off and doing it on your own, and you can't keep track of it the whole way through.
Oh yeah. Look, you know, again, you know, everything's a balance, right? So you guys, I'm not trying to cast anything wrong with it. There's times when you want to be by yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's other times that you think that you need to do it with other people, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But sometimes you can get fixed in an idea that one is better than the other, or that this is the way I do it, you know. So you go out and you say, so some people, you see, they have to have a group of people. They can't do it by themselves. They're like, if there's no one here, I can't do it. I can't do it by myself. And or the other type of person is like, leave me alone, please. You know, everyone's disturbing me. I just need to be by myself, and then I'll get it. Just leave me alone. And I'm just saying that when you get into those places where you actually start to identify yourself with one of those two ways, it probably means that you need to get a good dose of the opposite. It probably means that you just need to figure out and have some good experiences in the other direction, because as I said, it's a very, very healthy thing to be able to traverse that thing. It will free up your life so much. I hope that answers your question, Kim.
I thought you were talking about flow patterning.
Well, flow patterning too. I mean, flow patterning, look, again, when you deal with flow, it's not separate. Like we were, remember when we were dancing in the screen, like we're like hundreds of miles away, thousands of miles away from each other sometimes. And yet we're like connecting on our flows, right? It's very hard not to keep everything separate. When we're working with flow, you're going to be connected to everything and everybody around you. So it's not only just that, it's not a habit of I gotta work with people sometimes, or I gotta be by myself sometimes. It's actually intrinsically part of the spiral. You're going to always be dealing with this flowing out and connecting with people, and then becoming your own eddy or pool, your own little tornado, or whatever it is. But you cannot separate yourself from that constant interaction and that breathing that's going to happen between you and others. And again, if you do find yourself in that, stuck in one side of that flow, you're bound to have to crash. That's how you get people like the Unabomber. You ever, that guy who used to send out mails to people with bombs in them and stuff. It was funny because they had an interview with him, and he's like, they're like, why'd you do it? And he's like, at first, he has all these justifications, but as you get in the interview, he's like, he was talking about how he longed to just have a normal life, and that he just wanted to have, like, he felt so jealous that this person was walking around with a family. So it's like kind of like he's had two minds of it. One said he's like all rebelling against this, but he's gotten so far into that he actually, he's actually almost doing it for attention. He wants to go back. He wants to go into the other thing. It's, don't settle in one side of the situation. You're going to get into some very difficult, you'll make it very difficult for yourself in your life.
So just to clarify, this is your answer to Barbell question. Barbell, who was saying that she finds it easier to get in the flow when we are all together.
Yes.
Rather than when she's alone. That's your answer to that?
Well, I think that if Barbell also looked at her life, she'd probably see phases where she thought it was better to be by herself than to be with other people. Is that true?
Yes, it's true. But I really mean that it's being in this group or in being in Toronto. It's like a whoosh.
Yes. And so here, again, you guys should do that. You guys should be by yourselves working your thing, but then, to go through, and hopefully this thing that Barbell set up with, the duos and stuff that we have is going to encourage. But I encourage you guys to just contact each other, even whenever, it's just good to do that. And, eventually, again, you start doing that with everybody in your life and stuff. But it's good to learn first the characteristics of flow, because when you have a situation like this, you can really become more clear of what it should really feel like, and that's really very important, I think. All right, I think anyone else with questions? Otherwise, let's call it a day. I'm going to have videos for you guys tonight. So look, again, it's kind of crazy because my schedule a little crazy, but I have a lot of them ready. It's just that I haven't been able. It's just never mind. It's just technical stuff. But so tonight there'll be a bunch of them, and I'd like you to do them, please. I try to make them as accessible as possible. They're a little bit, I realize they're different tone than other people. And the reason why I make them that way is that there's a potential that I might use this as a part of my online course or something like that. And I'm not going to get people like you guys who are like, you don't need the stuff that I put in those other things, but other people do. So like, forgive me sometimes if like the tone is a certain way. I have to, I'm kind of just trying to keep it open so that everyone can sort of understand and digest and that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, you guys, fantastic. So, okay, flow patterning. We're going to be working on this week. Practice up. Flow in, flow out. Open, close. Let's just try with just that and just play around with this idea of this axis. You can pull it in all sorts of directions in your body. Just try it out. See if you can release something in your head, your brain, or something. Just play around with it and see if you have any questions. And next time, again, I'll start to get a little bit more into techniques. We're going to start working with spiral forms, for example, and that's going to be very interesting as you start to see how. I think Sally had talked about that she had. She felt was it Sally? I think it was you. You were talking about the spinning that you felt. No, it wasn't you. It was, who was it? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Okay, Monserrat. Yes. So look, all those spiral forms again will naturally coalesce when you have an axis, but when you start to see more spiral forms, you can actually again start to guide your mind to sort of encompass different forms, and those forms are actually very, very helpful in different situations. So we'll go into that for sure. All right, you guys, great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
Everybody.